Hey everyone, someshyguy here. Welcome to my 2025 Emulator Settings Guide video. I hope you all enjoy this and learn something new. Please leave a comment down below if you already have advice or a tip or trick that you know about the emulator for others and myself to learn from, or what you learned from this video. Appreciate all your time. Hope this helps. Firstly, with our setup of the Game Loop emulator, where actually to download the emulator from. Like I said, if you watch my 2024 settings video, always get it from the official Gameloop.com website. Go on to here, it says download, set up the emulator. Simple as that. After we download the emulator, we're going to get a menu that looks like this. However, before we can actually change any of the settings fully, you're going to need to fully download Call of Duty Mobile or your game of choice. To get to the settings menu, I'm going to click the 3-bar option up here. In the future, this is how you update the emulator, of just update check. However, since we just downloaded it, pretty good. Go to settings, and this is where you can start to change settings from the default of the download. These are the settings that I run. Now on to the engines tab of the emulator settings. These are my current settings because I have a pretty high-end device, so if everyone who has a low to medium-end device, simply just reduce some of these settings to match and correlate your system's actual specifications to match better, to have a lot more stable performance. These are the settings that I've found for my system work the best. However, if you have a low to medium end, just simply reduce any of the following settings that don't match your system specifications, and hopefully that will help with a lot of stability issues. The model tab is very simple. You can either use a common model or a custom model. I always found that using kind of an actual high-end gaming phone name kind of helped with overall performance. I really don't know if it does. I use the Asus ROG Rogue Phone 9 Pro. So for example, use that, works pretty well. Not sure if one of the common models would work better. This is what I use for my system. On the game tab, what I have found that actually works best is just to put it, if your system can run it, on 2K and HD. I don't know why. If you put it on any of the lower settings, it limits the FPS to 60 instead of 120. So make sure that you don't overdo it with the graphics. If you have a weaker or older graphics card or GPU, put it on 1080p or maybe even 720p, but I would always leave the graphics quality HD because that enables the 120 FPS. And lastly, the account tab. This is the area if you would want to make a Game Loop account, you can simply log in and create an account. However, you don't need to in order to play on the Game Loop emulator. After all these changes are made, make sure to hit save in order to actually save your changes. Now, onto the in-game Game Loop settings. Another thing that I actually forgot in my previous videos is I always recommend, if you have the space, to always fully download the emulator. Make sure to hit the settings, and then ask before downloading is off. If you can download the game to 100%, I found that this consistently helps with the, best consistency of FPS and performance with the game. If you have things undownloaded, it struggles to kind of load the unloaded textures, if that makes sense. Now, onto the settings, which can be found with this gear icon up in the top right corner. Here we have our actual in-game Game Loop settings. First, we have controls. This is simply where you can actually change your simple or advanced firing mode in multiplayer, BR, and zombies. Not sure why it was on simple for BR. However, I usually keep it on hipfire for everything, because that's the easiest and best way to play in my opinion. Now, onto the basic settings. A lot of these are universal and actually don't really matter depending on your device. These are just personal preference for me. So I'm going to scroll through these very quickly as just to save time, and of course pause if you need to have more time to find a setting. onto the BR tab. Lastly, zombies. Now, onto our audio and graphics tab. What I've usually found works the best for graphics quality is medium and frame rate is ultra. If you don't have that great of a GPU, always put the graphics to low or frame rate to max. See if that helps with stability. I've actually found that leaving the frame adjustment off, even though you have it enabled to 120 FPS, so if you hit on, you can change it real quick, hit off. This actually greatly improves the stability of BR and multiplayer. Not sure why, just found this setting to actually be more useful turned off. Down below, I have everything just set to off so it doesn't really have to load in a whole bunch of extra resources that would, I guess, potentially lag your performance in game. Another great setting if you're having some problems or really having some stuttering issues is to do a shader preload. I would probably say every week or two. This just helps download some resources so it's a little easier for the game to process while you're actually in game. For the audio, I have everything just set to 100% except the music. This way I can hear every footstep or gunshot or whatnot that I need to hear, and I don't need to have the music in the background as well. Another good tip is actually turning down the ambient volume. This is kind of the nature sounds and the unnecessary noise that can kind of get in the background and actually mute and cover sounds. So I just leave it at 30 to still have a little bit of realism, however it doesn't, I guess, overshadow or drown out important noises in the game. And with the effects, I just leave it simple of tactical and off for the distance change. I don't like the 3D hit it setting, I guess, so I keep that off. And another thing is explosion shake. Also keep that off too, just to save yourself some visual headache. And the last setting tab I'll go over is sensitivity. I actually keep everything just on default. However, this is where if you would want to make more minute and micro adjustments, these are where all the settings are for multiplayer, BR, and zombies. The only setting I will recommend is keep your rotation mode for all of the modes on fixed speed. Just for me, it's the best aiming choice out of the three. The other settings are not necessary, I guess, for performance wise, however they're more personal choice. So I'll scroll over all of them very quickly. With this tab, if you actually want to use a controller with the Game Loop Emulator, this is the settings tab to actually change everything and to change your sensitivity for multiplayer, BR, and zombies. If needed, you need to change the language from default English. This is the tab to do it. You have a few options here. Also with the install tab, you can actually choose to have the zombies and undead siege mode in the game downloaded. This concludes the settings emulator guide. Hope you all learned something. Please comment down below if you did or did not understand something and needed more explanation or help answering a question. Thank you all again for your time. Hope you're all blessed. Take care.